Walk with me.
God reigns. Yes, he does. Our God reigns. Hey, hey, hey. Our God reigns. Yes, he reigns. He reigns. He reigns. He reigns from the southern portions of Africa and South America, even up to the tall mountains. All over the world, even to the north, the south, the east, the west. God reigns, for the earth is the Most High's and the fullness thereof. Yes, the earth is his footstool. Heaven and his throne is his throne. Yes, it is. Heaven is his throne. Our God certainly reigns. There is no one beside him, for he is alone. We must constantly convince ourselves there's no one, not even Isis, not even Yahweh, not Yahusha. No one is beside him. Who is his counselor? But yet, the Most High, he counsels many, and he uses his angels. He makes his angels spirits and his ministers a flame of fire, and he instructs them on what to do. And they've given hierarchy, and they might go to another one and instruct him to what to do. In all this, even the Satans have the same structure here on earth. And with that we say, deliver me from the hands of evil spirits who have sway over the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from thee, my God. Establish thou me and my seed forever, that we go not astray henceforth and forevermore. That's the prayer of Abram. He won God's favor with that because he did not believe that an idol could do anything for him. I don't care whether you have a cross trinket or what you call it, one of them Egyptian things that represents copulation. They say it don't, but it does. One represents the woman's reproductive organ, and the bottom part is a man's reproductive organ. These people believed in that stuff. This is what they worshiped women. They were into it. And then all throughout the continent, they were into this sexual, it's not deviancy, but they were into the part where sex was it. It was all. You got to realize Egypt was just not up in the north parts. Egypt was from east to west. Egypt was all the way into the United States. You go into the caverns of the Grand Canyon and you will find Egypt there. And then in Deuteronomy chapter 28, it says in 68, even those were carried to Egypt again with ships. For what? That you might be chastised, that God might find a seed out of Jacob that will obey, that will put him as thou shalt have no other God before me. Thou shalt not make any graven images. When he means that, he means painting, tattoos, all this stuff. How much do you really adore your God, even your creator? How much do you adore him to obey those things that you know of him? See, Abraham, it is written that he loved God. Go by his life. He's the best example over Christ, over anything. Abram, the best example over all of it on how to conduct yourself before the Almighty. To love him. Isn't that what is said even in the Old Testament? It's not coined by your Yahweh or your Husha or your Jesus. It's not coined by him. It was already written. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God, what? The owner, thy God. I'm not talking about that other God. With all thy heart, with all thy mind, with all thy soul, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. But then you have to realize, what is love? How do I measure my love? How is God measuring my love? The law, the ordinance, the statutes. When you do these things, you do them with joy because you know God delights in the obedience and the love of his people. Abram did this with joy. He rejoiced with joy in the feast days and all these things that he kept. He'd done it not of grudgingly nor of necessity, for he was cheerful in what he did and how he sacrificed or did things before the Most High. We have to really understand. Now, regardless of that, we thank God for all that he's done. And we also thank God for those of you who have joined us and who have been here since the beginning. We thank God for those of you who have been here, and now your understanding is even more. You're walking with me. You're causing these things that, yes, to infiltrate your mind, and it's stirring up your mind that you might love God, that you might even gain more of a love for God. Yes, and those of you who have just come and in the middle of everything, we thank God for you too, that you love God and that you are mindful of the Most High, and your awareness of things around you is growing. And then those of you that have just joined, we thank God and we pray that your understanding is up to par, and that you have chosen even the most. I ain't talking about no Jesus. I'm talking about God. I'm talking about him who made all things, him who have given you the commandments. Yes, and those of you that are about to join, and we call those things that are not as though they were. Yes, hallelujah. God is a healer. We ain't talking about no Jesus. God is the healer. God is the anointer. His law is your cleanser. By your obedience, you are clean. Because then, only then, when you obey and do those things in the law with joy and with gladness of heart, then you can say, hallelujah. You can say, I love God. Yes. Oh, you don't hear me. You don't hear me. But that's okay. That's okay. You're going to hear them bombs when they get to dropping. Yeah, you're going to start running for the weakest flee with no one even chasing. Yeah, your eyes pop wide open because you hear a pop pop or a boom boom. Yes, 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 yes. I know what it's like to have a shotgun put in your face, cocked all the way back, ready to pull it, and God steps in the way. Nah, nah, nah. My soul belongs to God. It don't belong to Jesus. Jesus is not God. My soul belongs to the Most High, even the Creator. My soul belongs to Him. And yours do too, whether you believe it or not. If you don't believe it, then you have really erred. Now, we're in the book of Jubilees, chapter 28, and we ended with verse 27. Now Laban was supposed to give wages to Jacob, and he was being deceitful because Jacob was a good worker. Have you ever had an employer that know you was a good worker to him, and even the slavers didn't want to let us go? So the fact is, they didn't even want to get their own. Their own started complaining and stuff. They didn't have no jobs, but they said, oh, this man not only worked for free, but he works better than you. So they decided to dumb us down, and then everything else in today is what follows. But anyway, and now we're rising back up. You can't defeat God and those who he have his hand on. You cannot defeat it. We're in verse 28, and it reads, all the sheep brought forth, spotted and speckled and black, variously marked, and they brought forth again lambs like themselves, and all that were spotted were Jacob's, and those which were not were Laban's. And Jacob's possessions multiplied exceedingly, and he possessed oxen and sheep and asses and camels and men servants and maid servants. In other words, God made Jacob rich because he was honest in his heart. Jacob was a man that followed the laws, commandments, ordinances, and statutes of the Most High. Yes, he did. He said that to his mother, Mom, I'm not going to do these things. Now he went to, in verse 30, and Laban and his sons envied Jacob, and Laban took back his sheep from him. You see this evil, no good, low down, dirty dog. And he observed him with an evil intent, as we said before. Now we're into chapter 29. He said, and it came to pass when Rachel had borne Joseph that Laban went to shear his sheep, for they were distant from him, and 3 days' journey. Yes. And Jacob saw that Laban was going to shear his sheep, and that Jacob saw Leah and Rachel spake kindly to them, and that they should come with him to the land of Canaan. For he told them how he had seen everything in a dream, even that he had spoken unto him that he should return to his father's house. And they said, to every place whither thou goest, we will go with thee. Now that's the mark of wife. If you have wives or a wife, that's the way they are. because they follow the man. They following you. They believe in you. They trust in what God is doing with you. This is what your wife or your wives are doing. They seeing that there's greatness in you, and they saying, well, we are safe and we are secure in this man. So we're going to follow him as he followed God. And they said, where thou goest, we will go. Just like Naomi and Ruth. She said, your God is my God. Where you go, I go. Your people are my people. This is the way a wife should look at her husband. Now, if you can't look at a man like that, then you don't need to marry him. You need to go back to your father's house or your brother's house or your sister's house, sit down and just eat a bunch of Cheerios and be good. Okay? Now, in verse 4, and Jacob blessed the God of Isaac his father and the God of Abraham his father's father. He rose and mounted his wives and his children and took all his possessions and crossed the river and came to the land of Gilead. And Acob hid his intention from Laban and told him not. See, his wives, they were faithful to him. They wasn't going to, you keep the deep things of your husband. You keep his secrets. You keep all those things, not even to your best friend. Whether you are wives or sister wives or whether you are a wife, even to your best friend, you keep those things of your family in your family. I'm not talking about evil. Jacob was not doing evil, and they know his intentions, for he shared them. See, this is why those of you that are married should sit down and talk. You should talk. And you should be one cohesive bond. Yes, whether you just two or whether you more than two. Now, verse 5. And in the 7th year of the 4th week, Acob turned his face toward Gilead in the 1st month on the 21st thereof. Laban pursued after him and overtook Jacob in the mount of Gilead in the 3rd month on the 13th thereof. Okay, we came after him. Well, I'm going to get you now. And the I am did not suffer him to injure Jacob, for he appeared to him in a dream by night, and Laban spake to Jacob. Laban spoke to Jacob. And on the 15th of those days, Jacob made a feast for Laban. I know you're nasty, you're ugly. I'm going to prepare for a feast even for my enemy, the father of my wives. Yes, he's going to do this. And for all who came with him, Jacob sware to Laban that day, and Laban also to Jacob, that neither should cross the mountain of Gilead to one another with evil purpose. In other words, he's saying, hey, I ain't got nothing against you. I thank God for your daughters. They've been a blessing to me. And the fact is that this man wanted to curse him. He wanted to kill him. He wanted to do everything. But then they came to terms. He said, all right, you got my family now. You got my kids. All right, let's make a deal. I'm not going to come for you for harm, and you're not going to come for me for harm. In verse 8, and he made there a heap for a witness. See, this is the things that they did. They always had a marker stone as to an oath or a promise or something, or a landmark. It was always a stone. Mark that down. Yes, a witness, and it was witness. Now, therefore, and anybody come up against that heap or that marker stone would know that is a witness as to what had happened there, or they shall inquire as to what is happening here. So even they will inform their children what they have put the stones in a certain place for. Wherefore the name of that place is called the heap of witness, after this heap. Simple. But verse 9, therefore they used to call the land of Gilead and the land of Rephaim, for it is the land of Rephaim. The Rephaim were born there. Giants whose height was 10, 9, and 8, down to 7 cubits. They were very tall men. And their habitation was from the land of the children of Ammon and Mount Hermon. And the seats of their kingdom were Canaan and Ashtaroth. That is a pagan god. And Idri and Mishur and Beon. And verse 11, and the I am destroyed them because of the evil of their deeds, for they were very malignant. And the Amorites dwelt in their stead. In other words, they multiplied. They were very evil and they were multiplying. So the Most High said, I got to stop this. Now, and the Amorites dwelt in their stead and wicked and sinful. And there was no people today which hath wrought to the full of all their sins. In that time, the time of Moses, where they were camped around the camp, there were no people there, as the angel of presence were explaining to Moses, yes, to Moses, yeah, and who have wrought to the full all their sins, and they have no longer the length of life on the earth. They're going to be totally destroyed, is what he's saying. Verse 12, and Jacob sent away Laban, and he departed into Mesopotamia in the east, and the land of the east, and Jacob returned to the land of Gilead, and he passed over the Jabbok in the 9th month on the 11th thereof. And on the day that Esau, his brother, came to him, he was reconciled to him and departed from him unto the land of Seir. But Jacob dwelt in tents. He dwelt in tents. Is he the same tents you might see in the background here? Yes, he dwelt in tents. Something like that. I'll put it that way. That's just an artist's rendition. But anyway, in the first year of the 5th week in this Jubilee, he crossed the Jordan. Some say the Jordan is the Nile. He was in Africa. Some say the Jordan is different. But we know names have been changed to protect the guilty and those that are deceitful. That's what happened. So you're going to have to do some research on that part there and come up with your own synopsis or your own conclusion as to where Israel and to where all these rivers be. There are many hints on YouTube, even here on TikTok, as to where these places are. Yes. And he pastured his sheep from the sea of the heat to Bethshan. Now you got to remember, the heat is where he made an oath between him and his father-in-law Laban. And unto Dothan. Now there's a Dothan, Alabama. Now unto the forests of Acrabim. 15. And he sent to his father Asaka of all his substance, clothing and food and meat. This man loved his daddy. I'm sure his daddy would have smacked that butt or told him to do something he didn't like, but he didn't just get all rebellious and go to the weakest part to link their mama and then sit up there and try to play her against him because they know she had compassion on him, but he loved his daddy. His daddy had authority. His mama was with that authority. To the fact that she knew that you don't cross your father, baby. Because you cross me, you cross your father. See, this is how a relationship got to be. A man must say, if you even dare come against your mother, boy, I'll put you down. A woman, little girl, I'll put you down. Same thing with a mother. You dare not come against my husband. After we done fed and changed your nasty, dirty diapers and put up with your mess, you bet not. You have to get to that point, and then once they see you do that, they will do that with their children. See, this is how the conquer and divide happened with the families. This is how, through television, through these sitcoms, through TV, through commercials. Now you got children talking back on social media and all kind of things and being disruptive. You think they're going to live very long? Depends. Now, and he sent his father, Asaka, all his substance. He blessed his father, drink and milk and butter and cheese and some dates and valley. Loved his father. Ain't too many sons going to do that for their father in this day and time. And to his mother, Rebekah, also 4 times a year between the times of months, between plowing and reaping and between autumn and the season and winter, spring, to the tower of Abram. For Asaka had returned from the well of Oath and gone up to the tower of his father Abram. And he dwelt there apart from his son Esau. Now he was apart from Esau. I don't blame him there. For in the days when Acob went to Mesopotamia, Esau took himself a wife, Mahalath. Yeah, the daughter of Ishmael. That's still his kinfolk, yes. And he gathered together all the flocks of his father and his wives and went up to the mount, dwelt on the Mount Seir. Now, we know what Mount Seir is. For those who've been following even Midway, you should know what Mount Seir is. And left Asaka, his father, at the well of Oath alone. Yes. Now, with that, we're going to say peace. No matter how
never fail.